with this. Well, Steffi Bull, the trainer of Terry Harper, WBC super featherweight champion, says there's some great news for Terry. This week she had a meeting and a scan with her surgeon, and he's happy with the way the hand is healing. Looks like things are on course to try to start punching in February, and hopefully for a ring return in April, all depending on the speed of recovery. And this silver lining is coming on the heels of the BBOC once again suspending all boxing in the United Kingdom due to the coronavirus pandemic. As a result of the recent rise in cases, they won't allow any fights in January. Josh Kelly versus David Avanesian must be rescheduled again.
That doesn't affect Terry's schedule.
That really is the saving grace here. That really is the silver lining, that Terry wasn't set to make her ring return in January anyways. So even if the BBOC have canceled all boxing in the United Kingdom for the month of January, that won't have any effect on Terry Harper's career or her scheduled ring return. Terry, who yesterday afternoon was trading barbs with her transatlantic rival, Mikaela Mayer. Mikaela Mayer, who was quoted as saying, "Hey, Terry Harper, your country love hates me, a.k.a. UK reporters won't stop calling me, a.k.a. they're going to buy our fight just to see me lose, a.k.a. I'm the draw in your own country, a.k.a. hope your hand is healing fast, a.k.a. stop letting your coach tweet for you, a.k.a. Happy New Year." To which Terry Harper replied, "Mikaela Mayer, do yourself a favor, go to the kitchen tap, fill a glass of water, have a drink. You seem a little thirsty, a.k.a. Belter is gonna beat your ass." To which Mikaela Mayer replied, "When your coach hops on Twitter and does your shit talking for you, come on, Terry, you're a world champion. Believe in yourself." Mikaela Mayer also addressed her adoring public in the United Kingdom and said, "Dear my beloved UK fans, if you truly want to insult me, hit up Google for some proper American trash talk. Calling me a dosser, a yank, or helmet literally means nothing to me. LOL, like, what's that?"
She's the Ric Flair of professional boxing.
Woo! She is the Ric Flair of the super featherweight division. Mikaela Mayer is effectively helping to sell this fight and grow it by playing the heel.
Yeah.
In every good story, there's a good guy and there's a bad guy, and Mikaela Mayer seems quite content being that bad guy, at least to the UK fight fans, the ones getting behind Terry Harper. And you know, in reading these tweets and surveying the landscape, it reminded me of what Greek contender Kalia Karuni communicated to me in our interview, that, you know, as far as Kalia was concerned, the reason that the sport hadn't grown in previous years is because a lot of the fighters were very prim, very proper, and very boring. That it isn't enough to be a good fighter. You've got to be the full package, the dynamic character.
It sells.
That grabs people's attention. I think that's what Mikaela Mayer is doing for the Brits, for the fight fans in the United Kingdom. She has given them someone to root against, someone to hate. And this rivalry between her and Terry could go down as one of the legendary rivalries in the sport of women's boxing. That's right. That's what I think she's doing for this fight.
I think the problem in women boxing, it's not the more minutes. Of course, it's positive, the more minutes. But I don't think this is the problem, why the women boxing is not so big. It's a little boring. The people don't need only good fighters. They need all the total package. When you talk, the people, wow, it's okay if it's trash talking, if it's tear down, if it's something clever. They are very boring. Right now, many girls champions, they are very boring.
The value of these kinds of dynamic characters that captivate an audience, for better or worse, that the love-hate relationship between the fighter and the fight fan isn't to be understated.
Very important.
Being prim and proper really doesn't sell a lot of tickets. It doesn't. Not by itself. In the same way that you need someone to root for, you need someone to root against. That dynamic and that relationship between the fight fan and the fighter was ever present in Floyd Mayweather Jr.'s fight with Oscar De La Hoya, the Golden Boy.
It was.
Many would tab that particular fight, that particular engagement, as the fight that catapulted Floyd Mayweather Jr. into superstar status. And in building that fight, Floyd Mayweather Jr. quite obviously was playing the heel.
And it worked.
As far as he was concerned, somebody had to. That being said, I think that Michaela Mayer is doing everything right here, dispensing her own brand of American sass,
Staying on Terry Harper's ass.
regularly calling her out and regularly trading barbs with her by way of social media, not allowing their fight and their rivalry to fade into the background of everything else that's going on. Kayla's constantly reminding Terry, hey, I want a piece of what you got.
Fuck you up.
And I like it. Like it a lot. Just in reference to the UK ban on boxing for the month of January, per tweet from Michael Benson, Eddie Hearn has confirmed that David Avanesian versus Josh Kelly has been postponed after the BBBOC suspended all UK boxing in January due to the pandemic. He said they will restart in February, hopefully in the UK, but fights could be moved abroad if necessary. And if you take a trip to social media, read the tweets, see the reactions from our buddies over there in the United Kingdom, they've had it. They have fucking had it. You know, y'all thought that Eddie Hearn had found a way to work through the pandemic by way of Matchroom's bubble, and even that won't be allowed through the month of January. The silver lining here, the saving grace that isn't immediately apparent on the surface of it, is that DAZN has gone global, you understand.
It has.
Global.
It has.
DAZN is available in the United Kingdom. And what fights are being fought in other parts of the world are fights that are now accessible to the fight fans over there in the United Kingdom. You gotta remember, Ryan Garcia's fight with Luke Campbell took place here in the United States, but it took place at a time that accommodated the Brits, the British fight fans.
So the fight fans won't be starved of fights.
Fights taking place abroad can provide to the British fight fan reasonable accommodation that they can still tune in at a good time for them, the way they did with this Ryan Garcia versus Luke Campbell fight. While the British boxing scene might have come to a screeching halt for the month of January, in the month of January, towards the end of it, you know, we're still going to see that Sergey Kovalev versus Bektimir Melikuziev fight. That's a fight that is accessible to the British fight fans. Jojo Diaz's mandated title defense against Rakhimov, that's set to go down in February. The Joseph Parker versus Junior Fa domestic clash in New Zealand, it's also set to go down in February. That's been rescheduled. Junior Fa's all healed up and ready to go. In March, we have the long-awaited, long-anticipated unification rematch between Chocolatito, the WBA's super flyweight champion, and Juan Francisco Gallo Estrada, the WBC's super flyweight champion. That's set to go down in March. And every single one of these fights are fights that are now accessible to the British fight fans.
And those are just the ones we know of.
Those are just the ones that are already scheduled. I'll go as far as saying that, you know, Eddie Hearn can look into exploring what venue options are available outside of the United Kingdom, abroad, in other places, orchestrate those situations to accommodate the British fight fan in the British time zone.
The way they just did with Ryan and Luke.
You know, maybe you fly those guys over stateside. Maybe you have them fight over here someplace, over here somewhere. And you do it at a time to where the Brits can tune in. Because the overall goal here, the bottom line, is driving up those DAZN subscriptions, DAZN subscribers in the United Kingdom. But you don't actually have to stage a fight in the United Kingdom to do so. So even if the British Board of Boxing Control has so decided to ban any boxing in the United Kingdom through the month of January, it's not the end of the world, and it can be worked around. And in heavyweight news, 4 days ago, Boxing Scene ran a story in reference to Jarrell Miller officially being enrolled in the mandated random drug testing program. Seems a day late and a dollar short to everybody, but better still, that's the news. He was quoted as saying, "I'm gonna pee in this goddamn cup and keep it moving," Miller stated whilst recording the session for his Instagram live channel. "I don't even know if I want to box anymore. I might just become a rapper, you know what I mean? I could just play football at this point." The random drug test was the first since earlier this summer when Brooklyn's Miller tested positive for the banned substance GW501516, also known as Cardidine and Endurobol, prior to a scheduled scheduled July 9th headliner on ESPN. Miller was due to face Jerry Forrest live from the bubble at the MGM Grand in Las Vegas in his first fight since a fourth-round knockout of Bogdan Dinu. Instead, he was handed a lengthy suspension by the Nevada State Athletic Commission, backdated to the time of the finding in late June. Miller has the chance to shave 6 months off his sentence on the conditions he enroll in and complete a drug testing program as contracted through the Voluntary Anti-Doping Agency, as well as a substance abuse program, both of which he is required to pay. Completion of both programs will reduce Miller's suspension from 24 months to 18, leaving him eligible to return to the ring roughly sometime around January 2022. Naturally, the brash heavyweight has already set his sights at the top level. I'm going to get a hold of the lineal heavyweight champion Tyson Fury, and I'm going to smash this fool, insists Miller. You want to know why? Because boxing needs a big boy baby like me. I'm just giving you facts. In reference to the debacle with Anthony Joshua, because he was never officially licensed by the New York State Athletic Commission at the time, Miller was able to avoid a state-issued suspension. Still, he remained on the bench for the duration of the year before entering a promotional agreement with Top Rank earlier this year, which is really last year. The ongoing coronavirus pandemic delayed his ring return until July, with Top Rank operating all of its post-pandemic business in the Las Vegas bubble. Doing so required Miller to apply for a boxing license with the state of Nevada, the same step he took in New York prior to the planned fight with Anthony Joshua. The matter was handled far more effectively by the Nevada State Athletic Commission, who treated Jarrell Miller like a licensed fighter, thus left him subject to random testing as a stipulation. The distinction was key, as the drug test result allowed the Nevada State Athletic Commission to issue a temporary suspension whilst reviewing his case. Miller remained under such status for 5 months before his case was finally heard and ruled upon during the Commission's monthly agenda hearing on December 2nd. Jarrell Miller was quoted as saying, "How many real medical experts did he even call? I know I did. I called over asking, why is this shit in my system? Former two-time UFC light heavyweight champion John Jones had something in his system for over a year preceding his scheduled fight with Alexander Gustafsson at the T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas. They tried to suspend him again. So what did they do? They sent him over to California while trying to suspend him over such a small amount in his system that it can't do anything for him." Nevertheless, Miller is well aware that there exists zero chance of talking his way out of a suspension, rather proving for the first time in his career that he is a clean athlete. Just stay tuned in, said Jarrell Miller. That being said, I've read over the hairy details of the Anthony Joshua debacle and the Jerry Forrest debacle. We know what the particulars are, and ultimately, even if Jarrell Miller carries out all these stipulated drug tests and substance abuse meetings,
He does this.
even if he does all of this going into 2022, there's still one fundamental problem with
What's this, his big comeback?
Is that what this is supposed to be? Well, I'll tell you what. There is one fundamental problem with what is supposed to be Jarrell Miller's comeback in the year of 2022, a full 12 months from now. And that fundamental problem is he's a social pariah in the sport of boxing. You've already burned bridges with Matchroom, and you've already burned bridges with Top Rank. Those are two major promotional outfits that have deals with two major American networks.
That's big-time boxing.
Don't look to those two outfits for opportunities in 2022. I gather that even in the next 12 months, those two outfits ain't gonna want nothing to do with Jarrell Miller. I mean, you heard how Eddie Hearn reacted to all of this news. You heard how Bob Arum reacted to this news.
Get it.
Jarrell Miller, moving forward in the sport of boxing, if he so decides to do so, will be treated as a leper.
Have not.
I know that you guys might be thinking to yourselves, why should Jarrell Miller be ostracized in this way when, you know what, he's not the only guy that failed 2 drug tests. I mean, Alexander Povetkin did, Lucas Brown did, Luis Ortiz did, so why should Jarrell Miller be treated differently from those fighters? And in truth, there's an argument there is. But all the whataboutisms in the wild aren't going to make any of these promotional outfits invest any more time and any more money in Jarrell Miller. For Christ's sake, the guy sabotaged his Top Rank debut. You killed that relationship before it even got off the ground.
I don't know, maybe he can go to the PBC.
Provided he carries out all of these stipulated drug tests and substance abuse meetings, if he behaves himself for the next 12 months, maybe he can go there. In truth, I think that's his only option at this point, because I reiterate, you bind bridges with Matchroom, Matchroom and you burn bridges with Top Rank. The only other major outfit in this part of the world is the PBC, the only other major outfit that has major network deals with American broadcasters. That being said, I don't know that Al Heyman would want anything to do with this guy.
How old is he now? 33 years old?
Probably be 34 years old by the time 2022 rolls around, and he's talking about coming back as a rapper or coming back as a football player. Though in truth, I've no stock in those claims when you know what? If those really were tangible options for you, you wouldn't be pissing in that cup, now would you?
Wouldn't still be trying to salvage your boxing career.
Jarrell Miller has painted himself into a corner that he can't quite seem to get out of, and it does really look like he's all but done in the sport of boxing, you know, big boxing, televised boxing. I can't see any promoter touching this guy, not any major promoter touching this guy. You know, maybe you can get Don King to sign you.
Probably the only one that would.
Though in the year of 2021, really 2022, do you really want to be a Don King fighter? I mean, you see what he just did.
Was it Chris Lovejoy?
Yeah, I think it was.
In so many words, is waiting out his contract with Don King, which is set to expire at some point this year.
This year?
Chris Lovejoy.
Was trying to make an appearance on a Matchroom card, and that appearance was stifled by Don King, who Trevor has a contract with. Do you really want to be a Don King fighter in 2022? And if I'm being honest, you know, Don, he's a pretty old guy. Who says he lives long enough to make it into 2022? Provided that guy's still alive. Let me tell you something. I'm not trying to kick Jarrell Miller when he's down. I'm not being a pessimist for the sake of pessimism. I'm just being honest. I'm looking at this situation, and what I see is that even if Jarrell Miller does all of this stuff and he cooperates, that still don't guarantee that he has a career left in the sport of professional boxing.
I mean, even if he signs to the PBC.
If he's even that lucky, that really would limit his pool of options now, wouldn't it? I mean, he'd just be limited to fighting PBC fighters, and depending on what side of the street the belts are, well,
Name dropping guys like Tyson Fury.
you think you're gonna get a fight with that guy? Look, I don't know any other way to look at this, okay? It really does look like Jarrell Miller's professional boxing career is over.